All right, thank you for tuning in. This is Chuk Woo's channel, and I am Woo. Today we're going to be discussing 6 money mistakes I made in my 20s, and I'm going to be giving you some advice on how you can avoid making those same mistakes, all right? So let's get started. What's the first mistake I made in my 20s? It was a very simple mistake that many people make. It's not having a budget, and it's not having a financial plan. What a budget does, when you write down all the money that comes in, all the money that goes out, how much you want to save, it prevents you from overspending, and it helps you understand exactly what your financial position is at any given point in time. Many people understand what they make. They get a paycheck every 2 weeks, but they're not really sure what they spend in any given month. Having a budget is critically important for that, right? Also, not having a financial plan, which is tied into not having a budget. Have you ever sat down and asked yourself, where do I want to be financially 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Have you ever asked yourself that question and written down the answers to that? Many people haven't. So it's very important to have a budget. It's very important to have a plan and to try to stick to that plan. So what's the solution? I created another video. You can check my channel on how to actually put together a budget. Start by doing that. Take a look at all the money you have coming in, all the money you have going out, how much you would like to save and invest on a monthly basis. Put that together. Start slow, start small. Do it today, okay? What's the second mistake I made in my 20s? And a number of people do this. I've heard from friends and coworkers. It's taking a disbursement from your 401k, right? When you leave a job, you get another job. You have basically 2 options to do with the 401k from your employer, your previous employer. You can roll it over into your new employer, right? Or you can take a disbursement. Disbursement basically means you cash it out. There are penalties involved with that. It's called an early withdrawal penalty. There are taxes, state and federal, associated with that. I made the mistake in my late 20s. I took a new job and I had about 30 G's in a 401k. And I said, hey, let me take this disbursement. After taxes, penalties, all that, probably took home $22,000 if I'm not mistaken. And that was a mistake because I convinced myself to do that because I told myself I was going to use the money to pay off some credit cards, which I actually did. I was going to use the money to invest. I paid off the credit cards, but the other $14,000 I kept in the checking account. And what happened was slowly over the next 6 to 8 months, I basically just spend the money. If you were to ask me, well, what did you really spend the money on? I couldn't name anything big like a car or an expensive vacation. I just slowly spent it because it was available to me. So don't take that as disbursement. It also robs you of future earnings, right? I talked about the taxes and the early withdrawal fees. Just leaving that money in based on my calculations, that 30,000 gross, 22K net, it'd probably be somewhere near 80,000 based on the growth rate that money in the 401k account was achieving back when I took it out. So it turned out to be a huge mistake. People think about, oh, it's only 30 G's, but really you're missing out on the growth, the compound interest. The solution is never take that disbursement. Always roll it over unless you're dealing with a very severe hardship where you need that money or you're going to use it for something big like to buy a home. Otherwise, taking that disbursement, keep it into your hands, you basically just spend it. That's what I've learned, okay? In the similar vein, what's the third mistake I made? It was not continuously investing in the stock market using dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging, or DCA, is basically when you invest a fixed amount of money every month, regardless of the price of the stocks that you're investing in, okay? It helps you invest slowly. It helps you receive the full power of compound investing and the general growth of the stock market. I think on average grows up anywhere from 8 to 12% per year, right? It isn't always the case. Sometimes the market goes down, but over a long period of time, it's generally going up, okay? I lost out on significant gains by not dollar cost investing. You know, when I think about 10 years ago, the price of some of the things I was looking at, Nvidia, Shopify, even physical gold. When I look at the price of those equities now and I actually hold some of them in some of those precious metal investments, I just shiver when I think about all the money that I lost out on by not continuously investing in the stock market. So the solution, always be investing. Set aside a small amount per month, no matter how much you make, to invest it into the stock market. If you're not comfortable with picking particular stocks, use an ETF, an electronically traded fund that matches the broad market, SPY. You can do the research and understand what those ETFs are, or just a mutual fund. You don't have to be a very savvy or educated investor. Just invest in the stock market as a whole. Continue to do it every month, 50, 100, 500 bucks a month, whatever you can afford, okay? Another mistake I made in my 20s was not focusing on paying off my student loan debts. Now, if you don't have student loans, this isn't an issue for you, but many people do. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. I probably came out of school with maybe about $50,000 in debt, which isn't a lot when you think about having a bachelor's and a master's, but I didn't focus on paying it off as soon as I could have. In my opinion, if you only have a bachelor's degree, you should pay off your student loans by the time you're 30. You have a master's by the time you're 35. You have a PhD, God bless you. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get rid of that. But I didn't focus on any excess income, bonuses, right? Annual bonuses, money from the investments that I did make, tax returns, throwing that money towards the student loans to getting rid of it. What it does, having that student loans, even if you're able to make the payments, it basically robs you of your future wealth. You're not able to save. You're not able to invest as much. You're not able to save up to buy a home, etc. So it really robs you of your future. It doesn't feel like that because even if you can afford your student loan payments each month, even if you can afford to pay a little bit more, which I did, you're not really focusing on tackling that debt. You need a plan. You need to have something in writing. So the solution is always pay more than your minimum. Use your income, use your investments, use your annual bonus from work, use your tax returns to throw it at that student loans. Get rid of it as soon as you can, okay? Now, what's the fifth mistake I made? And this was a big one, and many people fall into this. It's not understanding the full effects of lifestyle creep. What is lifestyle creep? Lifestyle creep is basically as you make more money throughout your career, you increase your cost of living. You get a nicer apartment, you buy a bigger home. You get a nicer car, you buy a new car. You take more expensive vacations. Lifestyle creep is the slow killer of wealth because you're constantly spending to match your income. You need to make the conscious decision to say to yourself, however much I'm making, I'm going to live like I make 10 to 15% less than that. That's the solution, right? You make $100,000, put your budget together as if you made 85. You make 150, put your budget together as if you made 125. Trying to avoid lifestyle creep and using that excess income based on your new budget to put it towards investment, to put it towards savings is really going to set you up over the next 10 to 15 years. Lifestyle creep is a monster and it's quiet. You see what your coworkers are doing. You see the expensive vacations they're going on. You see the nice clothes, the nice cars that they have. Don't get caught up in that. The person who's going to take care of the old you is the present you. Always keep that in mind, okay? So the solution is make your budget as if you're making 10 to 15% less than you do. Or another option is just to freeze your lifestyle for the next 4 years. What does that mean? That means you're making 80, you're making 100. Freeze your budget for the next 4 years, so no matter how much more money you make, hopefully your income does go up over the next few years, you continue to make or create your budget as if you're living at your current, sort of income. So freeze your budget or just knock 10 to 15% off your budget and pretend that you're currently making less than you are. It's hard to do. I understand people are just trying to survive, but the truth is that this advice is going to be generally hard. If you want to take care of the future, you need to make some hard decisions today. Now, what's the final mistake I made? It was probably not focusing heavily on having an emergency savings, 3 to 6 month worth of expenses. What does it mean to have an emergency savings? What's the benefit? It's a stress reliever. We're going through right now many layoffs due to the rise of AI, due to corporate downsizing, due to organizations shifting their human resources offshore to countries that have cheaper labor. There's a certain amount of risk that you have in not having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses laid up. It puts a lot of stress on you. You're worried. It leads to fatigue and quite frankly leads to depression. One thing I've been doing over the last 5 years is really building up my emergency savings. Knock on wood, I can say now I have up to a year's worth of emergency savings tucked away. Let's hope it keeps growing, okay? Without that cushion, you're in a tough position if you get laid off. So what's the solution? Build that emergency savings, 3 to 6 months worth. Again, it's going to be hard. Start by setting your budget 10% less than you're currently making. That's going to help you build up your emergency savings. Cut expenses that you don't need. Start cooking at home. That's a big one. People do a lot of DoorDash if you're like me. All of that really adds up. Go to the grocery store, cook at home, track your budget, see every month where you can cut things. Build up that savings. It's gonna take a lot of pressure off your shoulder, all right? So that's today's video. I gave you 6 money mistakes I made in my 20s that you should avoid. I gave you some practical tips on how to avoid them. Let me know in the comments about mistakes you've made and whether or not you find this advice valuable. Again, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.